Alrighty, it is another Pittsburgh Hockey Now live chat. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski. Yeah, we are. Hang on, let me add myself back here. I'm not sure how I'm doing this. Oh, get rid of the PHN there. But anyway, there we go. Hi, how are you? Let me make sure everything is sounding right. Yep, we're gonna go. I literally just got back from practice. The Penguins went a good 10 or 15 minutes over what they were supposed to do this morning, but it was a kind of a heavy scrimmage day after they got done with all their drills and such. The last half an hour, or actually more than half an hour, was in fact scrimmages. Drew O'Connor back on the Sidney Crosby, Brian Rust line. I will tell you, as we get going here, and of course, you can jump in with the questions and the comments at any point here. I'm starting to wonder about Rutger McGroarty's NHL not future. That's the wrong word. I'm starting to wonder if he is actually going to make the NHL roster out of training camp. It's getting a little more fierce. The competition is starting to get a little bit steeper. And I think he is being presented with some additional challenges that he probably didn't expect. He's getting hit with, wait, that's Cody Glass. Hang on, let me remove Cody Glass. There's Rutger McGroarty. By the way, subscribe so I get paid for these little shindigs here that we usually go far too long, and I say far too much. That's how it goes. So on this show, I did plan to talk about how I see the roster shaping up. There's a couple of guys I want to get to. Kevin Hayes, Cody Glass, McGroarty. Jesse Puljujarvi has entered the chat. He did so with a hat trick on Saturday night. And I think he's just, he's moving significantly better than he did last season. So we're going to toss him into the mix. A couple of guys, actually a couple of the lines I see forming, even though Mike Sullivan says all the time, don't take it for granted or don't assume this is what I'm thinking. I'm just looking at some things sometimes. So, there is one combination that has been fairly consistent, even more consistent than Kevin Hayes and Cody Glass, who Sullivan has largely paired in training camp. And I'm going to hold off. I didn't get a chance to talk to them today. I wanted to talk to both of them. And both guys bolted the locker room before the media got in there. So when I walked in, I'm like, no. Mike Sullivan did talk about Kevin Hayes and what he wants to see from Hayes to improve. And I thought it was a rare and a bit of a shocking, honest answer from Mike Sullivan. Sullivan usually says this guy's good at this and this. When you always notice when I'll give you, the little Mike Sullivan decoder ring. He will say his game is at his best when he's X, Y, and Z. He never says, well, he needs to do these things. He says his game is at his best in X, Y, and Z. Tuesday night, Mike Sullivan just jumped into it and said, no, we've been talking with Kevin Hayes. In fact, here, so you don't have to stare at my ugly mug, there's Kevin Hayes. Sullivan and Hayes have been talking about playing faster. Play faster, play faster, play faster. I thought it was kind of a refreshing answer because if you look at the Penguins this season and how they're constructed, if they hope to really do something more than they did last year and the previous year, Kevin Hayes is a guy that Sullivan's going to have to tap into and pull out the very best that he can. He's going to have to get that 40, 50 point Kevin Hayes, not the 29 point guy of last season. And so when he straight up challenged Kevin Hayes to play with pace, more pace, play faster, play faster. I did get a chance. I don't know that Hayes entirely liked me asking about it this morning. I guess actually it was afternoon, but you get what I'm saying. So I was like, listen, man, last night Sullivan was saying, wanted to see you play more with pace. How difficult is that? You're an established veteran, and here's a coach saying play faster. How difficult is that to add to your game? And maybe he thought I was calling him slow or something, and that wasn't the intent of my question. But nevertheless, he was like, no, it just means I have to keep my feet moving all the time. I have to play faster in practice. I have to, make that a habit where I'm always skating, not gliding. So that was it. I think Hayes received the message loud and clear. I think Kevin Hayes has actually had a very good training camp. I think he's been really good. And I don't know how much, or if you have begun to appreciate his game, or if you've noticed the subtleties of it. And by the way, boy, we're down on comments today. What's going on? Where's Norman Cliff and all of the regulars? Jump on the live chat as well. But the sneaky playmaking of Kevin Hayes has surprised me, has impressed me. I don't know that Cody Glass is the very best line mate. I don't know that Cody Glass is going to finish enough of those chances. But it certainly is an interesting combination because they both play a little bit of a slower game. Certainly not a hard to play against game. But, maybe that cohesion is what Sullivan is looking for. Oh, I just realized I've got my credential on still. Let me get rid of this thing. I think. Now I'm all tangled up. There we go. Yeah, I've gone from the motorcycle riding sports writer. Now I'm the sports writer in black, who's still all tangled up. Okay. So I guess I've got the Kevin Hayes stuff a little bit out of the. I do. Where is my article here? I'm going to post this link here. This is what I just put on Pittsburgh Hockey Now a little while ago. Kevin Hayes. There we go. He really is, I think, Hayes picking up where Jeff Carter left off. Is kind of that glue guy in the room. That big gregarious personality that everyone loves. That is going to keep things a little bit lighter. Is going to, kind of add that jolt of frivolity in the room that the Penguins desperately need. The Penguins can get too serious. Obviously, when you've got Mike Sullivan and Sidney Crosby at the head of your ticket, these are two guys who are straight and serious about hockey, and so you need a few guys like Evgeny Malkin and Kevin Hayes to goof around just a bit. Okay, Brian, the only player that has impressed me so far was Puljujärvi. The only other players I've noticed were Gruden and St. Ivany. I did miss the third period yesterday. See, Brian, you missed the Penguins' best period on Tuesday night. They were not as good in the first two periods as they were in the third period, although I will share your St. Ivany notice. I thought St. Ivany was really good for the bulk of the game Tuesday. He's you can see the young player getting more confident, trying a few more things. You can see St. Ivany having the courage to skate around the net with the puck, looking for a play to make. The Penguins' first goal against Buffalo on Tuesday. St. Ivany storms the neutral zone into the offensive zone, drop pass back to Mark Johnstone, a forward, and St. Ivany executes a perfect center drive. Michael Hauser stops Johnstone's first shot. It does get kind of behind him. Actually, wait, no, Johnstone hit the post. That's right. And St. Ivany just reached in and poked it in for a goal. It was like, oh, Jack St. Ivany. Yeah, Jonathan Gruden is certainly a zippy player. He can always be plugged into the NHL lineup in short bursts, and you know what you've got with him. You're certainly not getting a whole lot besides some speed and some puck pressure, but that's, he'll get more NHL games throughout his career. Cal 66. Oh, you know what? Maybe I should chat about Puljujarvi. Do I have a Puljujarvi slide? No, I don't. I don't have a Puljujarvi. Yes, he forced himself into the conversation. Listen, 2 weeks ago, I would have put him of the 19 forwards who had any claim to a legitimate chance at getting onto the 13 or maybe 14 man roster on October 8th. I think that's the day it has to be finalized. I think by noon on the 8th, or maybe even the 7th. But where's it the 4th? Because the Islanders and Devils play anyway. I'm not. Whenever the Penguins do have to finalize their roster, I would have put Puljujarvi probably 17th of 19, only because what I saw last year, his balance, I thought his work ethic was at times suspect, where he would take a lot of shifts off, and that very much comported with the player that we had all seen in Edmonton. Because, part of my job is I want to know things. So I picked up the phone last year and I called some friends who covered the Oilers and said, okay, spill the beans. And that's, basically what they told me is what I saw last year. I'm seeing a bit of a different guy this year. It'll be very interesting if Puljujarvi can leap ahead of Cody Glass and actually be a lineup regular. I think to this point, because he's a veteran, because I suspect they would lose him on the waiver wire, that he would be a 13th or 14th forward they would try to keep in the NHL, so that if and when they needed him, they could plug him in. And who knows, maybe Cody Glass is that guy that they put on the put in the press box. But yes, Puljujarvi had a very strong game Saturday in Buffalo. I would have liked to have seen him again Tuesday to see if he can keep it going. I think because, his problem being that consistency, I would have liked to have seen him go a second game. Jay, wow, Sullivan's comments on Avery Hayes. He's somehow higher on him than I am. And after that prospects challenge, I was damn high on him. You know what, Jay? Oh yeah, I put that in the Kevin Hayes story. Yeah, the big compliment for the little prospect. Sullivan, if you didn't read the story, compared Avery Hayes, no relation, to Matt Zuccarello, an undrafted, scrappy prospect who just seems to make something out of nothing. That was a pretty heady compliment. I mean, that was heady, heavy. Both, both adjectives work. Yeah, I think Avery Hayes has been entirely noticeable, both in the prospects camp, then the prospects challenge, and even in training camp. In Buffalo, he just seems to zip around. He kind of knows where the puck is going to be. He's just around the biscuit. So will he make the NHL roster? No. That would be the shocker of shockers. That would be a message that Sullivan is sending to a few guys if Avery Hayes made it. But that's not to say that next summer Avery Hayes isn't penciled in. Or even, say mid-season, he gets the Connor Sherry treatment, where the guy can play and you start looking for a way to create space for him. I don't know. I don't know if Hayes can get quite to that level. It's interesting. It's certainly interesting to ponder because he has, of all of the players in training camp, all 69 who started anyway, he's been the guy who shows up every day and is trying to get seen, trying to get noticed. Flux. Let's see. I am torn. I want to see McGroarty make opening night roster, but at the same time, I think a stint in Wilkes-Barre Scranton to dominate, then come straight to the top line might help him, a la Jake Gensel. I'm starting to wonder about McGroarty. I thought he was fine. He was pretty good Tuesday night. He was certainly in the offensive zone and involved. Maybe his skating does need to improve a touch. He certainly is clearly smart enough to play in the NHL. His game awareness and anticipation and how he gets to open spots in the offensive zone and puts himself in good scoring positions. Yeah, that's he has next level hockey IQ in those regards. I am wondering if he's going to go to the AHL to start, though. It's much more possible today than it was a week ago. I'm going to have to stop writing probably or in all likelihood on the NHL roster in regards to Rutger McGroarty. Ethan, I am just not seeing an avenue for Puustinen compared to the end of this past season when I thought he was a lock on the roster. No, you're absolutely correct. Cody Glass well outranks Puustinen, and Puljujärvi has jumped ahead. And I suppose Puustinen gets a shot Saturday against Detroit. But yeah, there was one scrimmage when Puljujärvi and Puustinen, and I'm trying to recall who the center was. Might have been Lizotte, might have been Lars Eller, and they just had a day in that scrimmage. Otherwise, Puustinen is not a guy. He's not big. He's not tough. Even his scoring. You wonder if he can be that 40 or 50 point guy rather than the 20 point guy he was last season. He might be a guy who's terminally on the bubble, and when you need, if somebody in your top 6 gets hurt, you can call him up and plug him in for a half dozen games, but you're never going to rely on him. I think that's where Puustinen's career cap might be. He also might make me eat those words and have a breakout where he figures it all out, where he's a little tougher to play against. He's more consistent. He shoots more, does so a little quicker with more accuracy because he just, adds those little layers to his game. It's possible. Hockey is so difficult to predict. Guys taking next steps. Think about how fast the game of hockey is played, and you're asking people to get better at it. It's crazy. Cal, I didn't watch the game, but you got to tell me how Boko Imama did. Well, I don't really have to, especially if you didn't watch the game, Cal. He's an AHL player. Let's not kid ourselves. How did he do? He was fine. He didn't beat anybody up. Let's see here. Starting to think Rutger should start in the AHL with big minutes. Not sure what the coaching staff thinks. What do I think? I don't know yet. I honestly, I think McGroarty and Puljujärvi with Cody Glass are the three variables upon which all of this is going to hinge. Where the Penguins lineup goes from here, going to hinge on those three guys. Here's daily faceoff. Now, I don't think Beauvillier is going to play with Crosby and Rust. And they have Lars Eller, third line center, with Kevin Hayes in the left wing. Yeah, I suppose all of that is possible. Drew O'Connor down on the fourth line. That's certainly interesting. What was it? Beauvillier was playing with Lizotte and Achari last night. That line was tremendous. It really was. And so I would probably put Beauvillier with Lizotte and Achari, not to punish him as a fourth liner, but because that line had some real zip. Like they were just all over everything. Beauvillier showed some real hands. He was starting to show off a little bit. There was a play, was it early third period or late second period on one of the power plays? Beauvillier kind of, he fronted the goalie, pulls the puck between his legs and tries to stuff it in on the far side. I was like, what? And you only do that unless, when you're feeling confident. That was absolutely for sure. Let's see here. Sounds like the door is closing on Sam Poulin. Yes. That's just a given. Poulin, of the 19 players, I put Poulin 19th. You really wanted to see him do something on Tuesday night. You wanted to see him scrap, make himself known, make himself big. Get that puck and play with it. Get in the offensive zone. Distribute, crash the net, put a couple good shots on the cage. I don't think he did that. Taking a couple of minor penalties didn't help his cause. Oh, I forgot. I can put these on. I always forget that I can put these on the screen. Taking a couple of penalties didn't help. I don't know if you read my post-game breakdown on Buffalo's second goal. There was a 50-50 puck battle that Poulin kind of went lame on. Didn't get himself into that battle. Sabres win it. They rush up ice. Poulin in tow. Poulin has a chance to break up the rush at the defensive blue line. Comes into contact with the puck carrier, but does so very meekly. Doesn't make a hard effort to disrupt or to hit or really to do anything. And Buffalo scores. Kind of a, I don't know if the puck was deflected, if it was just a bad goal by Nedeljkovic, but, still Buffalo gets a good rip from 30 to 35 feet because Poulin didn't take either of the opportunities to disrupt, to take the puck, to be hard on the puck. He really played the entire sequence far too soft, and he can't afford that. A guy like Beauvillier probably could afford that because he is one of those guys who is in the top 12 and has to play his way out. Poulin is on the out, has to play his way in. When you're part of the ladder, you have to make those plays. Jay says big if, but if he doesn't play any more preseason games, do I think last night is the last time we see Poulin play at PPG? Never say never, but certainly it would. My guess would be the last time he plays at PPG in a Penguins sweater. Then again, there have been some other 2019 draft picks clear waivers already. One of the, you'll forgive me, I'm drawing a blank. He was one of the top 10 picks, just cleared waivers to go back to, went back to Sweden. So that 2009 draft is really a hit and miss class. Flux says it's entirely widened my eyes this morning seeing that Ponomarev was practicing the second half with the NHL guys, something to keep an eye on. Practicing the second half with the NHL. Wait, what? I have no idea what you mean, Flux. Yep, he was part of. There were two groups today practicing, and Ponomarev is certainly part of those two groups. I'm not sure what you're getting at there. Gary Anderson, good afternoon, Dan. Well, good afternoon, Gary. It doesn't look like many, if any, of these newer, younger players are going to make the opening night roster. Watching these games and seeing the difference between the younger players, and some of the more experienced players is glaring. Glass, Puljujarvi, Beauvillier, Achari, Lizotte, Hayes all seem to be more NHL ready than Puustinen, Ponomarev, Koivunen, McGroarty, Poulin. They all seem to be on their way to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. I think that's very fair. I also think that potential is going to play a role in decision making. It's not purely on what you did in training camp, because you're seeing some of the best from Beauvillier or Hayes or Lizotte and Glass, especially. You're already seeing some of the best from these guys. If McGroarty sticks around, it's because they know he can be better with a little bit of watering. That garden's going to grow with a bit of water. So Ponomarev, at this point, I would put him as no more than a 10% chance to make the NHL roster. He was solid in the Prospects Challenge. He just hasn't done that thing to stand out, that thing to get attention from the coaches, that thing that says, oh, that guy's an NHL player who's a little better than the guys he's going to play against. He hasn't yet done that thing that you can really point to. Could he play in the NHL? Yes. Would he be better than Lizotte and Achari and Glass and the guys you mentioned? No, I don't think he's there. The question with him would be, where is his ceiling? From that standpoint, that's where I need to see the thing. I need to see something, a little bit out of the ordinary so that I say, okay, this guy is capable of this or that. So go to Ethan. Shea, Glass, Puljujarvi, Poulin, Puustinen, and Ludwig are the notable waiver eligible guys on the bubble. Do I think there's any chance of any of them would pose a serious threat to being claimed? Shea passed back and forth last year. He was able to sneak through waivers, as I recall. Would I, if as a rival GM, would I claim Valtteri Puustinen? You boy, that's a tough one. I'm thinking if I'm Columbus, who needs forwards, yes. I don't think Ludwig would get claimed. I think Penguins fans are maybe a little higher on him than they should be. Ludwig is a depth NHL defenseman. Poulin, again, because of his pedigree, he's got a shot to be claimed. Puljujarvi is the one. I mean, do you send him through waivers? I suppose if you do, would somebody claim him? Would somebody claim Jesse Puljujarvi? Again, I'm wrong about this every single year. Every year, I am wrong. I think guys will get claimed, and they sail through waivers several times a year. So if you're asking my opinion, could they get claimed? Yes. With the caveat, I'm always wrong. At least on that part of it. I would claim Puljujarvi. I would claim Shea if my defense needed a 6. I would claim Puustinen if I needed, if if I had 10 forwards I liked and a satchel full of vanilla pudding, yeah, I'd probably take a flyer on Puustinen. Okay, Brian, Nucida, Beauvillier, Lazat, Achari looks to be a pretty good fourth line. Oh, I like that very much. Something the Penguins have not been able to say in a very long time. Absolutely. Gary's back. Here's a question. Will Dubas and Sully make any of... Oh, they make roster decisions based on waivers. Never forget that hockey is a business. Even though Kyle Dubas says, the top 12, 13, or 14 players will be on the roster, and that if anybody gets claimed on waivers, well, good for them. Go to it. You have to also think about long-term at the beginning of the season. And let's just say Puljujärvi and Puustinen were tied. Well, I guess Puustinen's not waiver exempt. Let's say Puustinen and McGroarty are tied. Maybe you send McGroarty down for a couple or a few weeks so that you don't lose the player on waivers. Having said that, sometimes I know GMs have, in fact, put a player like Puustinen through waivers when everybody else is... When the waiver wire is full, they've tried to hide their players on that stacked wire, hoping to sneak them through. All of those things are part of the chess match. And I'm not really confident yet on where this is going. I think... I want to see the new look Puustinen in a game this preseason. I want to see McGroarty playing another game with Kevin Hayes. I want to see him playing more. I want to see McGroarty playing more and more, only to see the progression and the improvement on where he ends versus where he started. Nice to see Blomqvist bounce back on Tuesday with a solid performance. Yeah, he was fine. I mean, let's be honest. Blomqvist was not really tested. He stopped all 10 shots. Okay. I can't recall in the second half of the game when Blomqvist was in goal, Buffalo having sustained and heavy offensive pressure that the Penguins needed their goalie to bail them out. But it was good that he played well for his confidence. Yes, you get in there, not allow any goals, and skate off the ice feeling like, okay, I did that. No, Blomqvist does not get high or low based on his performance. He could go out and give up 20 goals. He could go out and have a 100 save shutout. He's coming back into the locker room, ice. Just absolutely flat. Unless McGroarty shows more in camp, he is likely AHL bound, Cal66 says. If that happens and Yeager makes the Jets, I may just puke. I haven't checked in on Braden Yeager and his progress in Winnipeg. Maybe I should start keeping an eye on that. I didn't do it intentionally because I know you. I know how you all are. And if I start writing about Braden Yeager, I would immediately create an entire faction of Penguins fans who would be anti-Rutger McGroarty. No matter what McGroarty might do, could score 30 goals, 100 points, and people would say, yeah, but, Yeager had 50 points. I never should have traded Yeager. And they'd be saying that 3 years from now. So I didn't want to create that segment of or at least have a part in creating that segment of the Penguins fan base. Today in the Penguins video, Ryan Graves said if he wasn't an NHL player, he'd be selling potatoes on the side of the road. Is it too early to get him some lumber to build a stand? Evil. That's evil. Okay. Michael, how is Aho practicing in the top 6? He gave pylons a bad name. Was he really that bad? There were a couple of times I was like, ooh, and then I realized it wasn't his fault. First preseason game. Also, Aho is not guaranteed to be in the NHL lineup. Ryan Shea is pretty solid. I think they would keep him around, and that's probably. I'll tell you what, the player I was disappointed with on Tuesday was Philip Kral. I expected a lot more from Kral than we saw on Tuesday. Sullivan on Wednesday, the little presser we do every day. Let me get these things off. Sullivan was talking about the things that Kral has to improve upon. Stick work. And it seems like kind of basic stuff. Knowing when to have one hand on the stick, how to lunge or reach, and how to take away space with it, when to have two hands on it. David Quinn has been working with him. And, that to me seemed like stuff a 24-year-old should already know. So I think they know what they've got in Ryan Shea. I think I think you're seeing Aho in the top 6 so that he gets a look, so that they know what they've got with Sebastian Aho too. Oh yeah. Flux makes a good point, because Carlson still is out with his day-to-day injury as well. Yeager isn't making the Jets this season. He's still got one more season of eligibility to play. Yeah, in Moose Jaw. Listen, even people I talked to around Moose Jaw felt that Braden Yeager needed another year in Moose Jaw. Ethan, I remember last year. Well, that puts you ahead of me, that's for sure. Harkins shows up and dominates in one preseason game against the AHL Red Wings. Do I think there is still some fluidity in roster decisions moving forward in camp? Oh, absolutely. I think Mike Sullivan this year, more than others, specifically threw the doors open. He's giving guys a chance. Maybe he's giving Cody Glass more of a chance than Valtteri Puustinen. Maybe he's giving Beauvillier a bigger chance than Sam Poulin, or maybe he's doing these things. But the reality is that's just, you don't have a month like football where you get to really beat up guys and find out what they're made of before you have to make these decisions. No, in hockey, you get a week. You get 2 weeks. Fluidity, though? Yes, absolutely. I think Sullivan is still looking for some chemistry, too. Don't underestimate that. Sullivan looking for chemistry in the lines. And that could upset the entire apple cart. You might have a better player wind up in the AHL because the lesser player had chemistry with one of the centers. Parkey was late to the chat. Rookie mistake. I even delayed it to 1:15 today because I wasn't going to get in the door from practice. Maybe, I'm not sure what I'm going to work on tomorrow. In fact, I know the 2 guys I want to talk to tomorrow, Beauvillier being one of them. I want to, kind of find out, how they feel and what's ticking with them. Why is it when I'm always ready to wrap up, the numbers start climbing? I think y'all just like to torture me a little bit. I think that's what we're talking about here. When are the cuts coming? Here's why. Here's why the cuts haven't come yet. Because of this goofy schedule, the Penguins play Saturday and Sunday, and they don't play close. Sudbury is like a 9-hour drive from Detroit. I will not be covering the Craftville hockey extravaganza in Sudbury. I'm going to cover Detroit on Saturday. I'm not driving 9 hours after the game to cover the Craftville hockey game and then drive straight home to Pittsburgh from Sudbury. No. But the logistics are a nightmare even for the team to get from Detroit to Sudbury. And don't forget, the Penguins released their preseason schedule before they knew where this game was being played. They are keeping a lot of extra players in camp. And I just realized I'm going to Detroit Saturday to watch the guys who are going to be cut on Sunday morning. Oh, man. Maybe I'm not going to Detroit on Saturday. I haven't booked a hotel. I usually like to stay in Port Clinton on the way home. There's like a nice little town, walk around. But I also have to get home to cover the Sunday game anyway. So, yeah. But that's why they haven't made the cuts yet. We pretty much know the 12 to 14 guys who are going to get that uncomfortable phone call or meeting with Mike Sullivan, but they are keeping extra players because of this weekend's game. Hockey cards. I know I'm probably being a bit petty, but one of the things scare me in Rutger's interview is all of his answers seem to start with I instead of we. Well, you're right. That is petty. We are asking Rutger about himself. That blame me, blame us media for asking about his experience, his views, his thoughts on where things are. This is not after a game, and we're not asking him, hey, why'd you guys lose? And him saying I. We're asking him about him. That makes any sense to you? Just go to Sudbury on Sunday. No. I'm not going to Sudbury. That is far too long of a drive to then return home on Monday. Not for preseason anyway. Just not gonna do it. All right, who do we want to talk about? Let me is this picture gonna show up well? No. Can I fit this? No, darn it. That's you're looking at the picture, the chest of Owen Pickering. And I've been surprised. Come back to me here. I've been surprised at how little attention Pickering has been getting from you all. Here is one of the an actual first round draft pick selected by the Pittsburgh Penguins with their own draft pick, mind you. Realize that the gap in years, Pickering, Poulin. Before Poulin, think about how many years it was before the Penguins had a first-round pick that they kept and selected who made it to the NHL. Wasn't one in 18, 17, 16, 15. Not one in 14. Was there one in 13? 12? 2012. Oli Mata was the acquired pick. And who black hair, slicked back, Pouliot, 2012. That's how rare Penguins' first-round pick is. Anyway, getting back to Owen Pickering, now that you all have diverted my attention. Here's a guy who has, I don't think I've seen a draft pick come quite this far in this short amount of time than Pickering. He's skating better. He's playing harder. I thought he was fine on Tuesday. He really did keep it simple. There was the one time he swung around the net with the puck, fed Beauvillier on for a great one-timer chance. He's going to play in the NHL. He's not going to be an all-star. He's not going to be a super high-paid top four defenseman. But he certainly, I think, in a year or two could fill that Marcus Pettersson role and do so fairly easily. Your house on Sunday, steak and a beer, watch the games on TV. As long as your house isn't in Sudbury, we're fine. Nick, can I walk us through what I think the lineup will look like? Crosby's winger, who's in the bottom six. Yeah, you know that I'm still waffling on the O'Connor Beauvillier thing. Let me pull up the Penguins lines as Daily Faceoff has them. I think, that top six actually makes sense. Putting Beauvillier on the top line with the hands and the grit, I think he's been playing really well. I think Beauvillier there makes sense. Lars Eller is the guy that I must confess I'm surprised that he's still a Penguin. I don't know if Sullivan is taking a look at Blake Lizotte at center or if they are trying to get him set at center. That's going to make a big difference on the lines. Because if Lizotte slides to the left wing, you slide Hayes in the middle with O'Connor and Glass, or O'Connor and McGroarty. Yeah, I kind of like O'Connor, Hayes, and McGroarty. And then the fourth line, you're looking at Eller in the middle with Lizotte and Achari, with Glass and Puljujarvi as 13-14. Or maybe McGroarty does go to the AHL and you pump in Puljujarvi, the winner of Puljujarvi Glass on that third line. That's what I'm thinking my lines are. The McGroarty thing, I'm not. You can probably tell I'm not confident in my opinion yet. I'd like to see him on that third line right wing because I think you'll develop him faster there than you would in the American Hockey League. But I also understand if you want to try to get in a playoff position by Thanksgiving and make McGroarty earn his McGroarty. I always put a little bit of an I in there, I think. McGroarty. That should be easy for Pittsburghers to say. Yeah, McGroarty. Put him in the AHL, make him earn his way to the NHL. Build a little hate. Of course, this is where I do waffle because Cody Glass is not that indispensable. What players can I see being sent down to Wheeling to start? Oh, good Lord, I have no idea. I am absolutely not paying any lick of attention to the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton cuts. Not doing it. Sorry. All right, Ethan, last year was a low point for Hayes. Is it just implied he will bounce back, or could this be the player he's going to be? I think we've seen the bounce back. I think we're seeing the bounce back. So that part I can answer with some confidence. There is a bounce back. Based off last year, I'd much rather have Eller at third line center. Yeah, me too. Listen, that's what I wrote through August. Getting a look at Hayes. Of course, he played against AHL competition on Tuesday. So he still has a bit to prove. I wasn't crazy about Sullivan challenging his speed. That's a problem waiting to happen, isn't it? So all things considered, yeah, but I can't believe some other team hasn't thrown a second round pick at the Penguins for Lars Eller. It shocks me that hasn't happened. Michael Thompson, DOC goes back with Sid. They have a good chemistry. Doc brings speed. Well, did they really have a good chemistry? I mean, O'Connor was decent there. I think O'Connor has more to give. I don't know that Sullivan thinks O'Connor has more to give. Down A-N-T. Oh, Anthony Beauvillier down to the fourth line to help that line with speed as well. I don't think the Penguins could lose with the Beauvillier-O'Connor debate. I don't think they can lose. Either one. I actually think they're kind of similar players, with O'Connor being a bit bigger. O'Connor having the potential to still bust out and be a power forward. Yeah. I wish I could give you a definitive answer on that. I'm just not there yet. The McGroarty thing is still too fresh, too soft to have some confidence. Yeah, so do I see Raquel getting 25 goals this year? I think he can score 20, pending his health, pending Evgeny Malkin's health. Yeah, let me fix my hair for you. Pending Evgeny Malkin's health, Raquel could get 25. I think what people forget, and I've seen a lot of villainizing Ricard Raquel, trade him, he's terrible, and all of that stuff, which makes me cringe a little bit. Raquel had a terrible 21-22 game stretch last year. Abysmal. What did he have? 1 goal, 3 assists, or no goals and 4 assists, whatever. He had like 3 or 4 points in those 24 games. When he returned, he had 32 points in 50 games, perfectly on career norm path. So, yeah, he also, Raquel lost a bit of weight to get faster this summer. Can he score 25? Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who popped in 34 before. So, yes, he can score 25. Let's see here. Thoughts on the power play? I like it. I like the wrinkle. Did you all notice the wrinkle? I don't have any pictures of it. They're kind of using a bumper, but not. They are putting a second player in the slot, like kind of where a bumper would be, but that player is playing forward, not pivoting around to distribute the puck. Further, you're seeing some distribution from the first forward down below the goal line, kind of like a bumper below the goal line. That's old school power play stuff. I like that too. We won't know quite what the power play is until the point man is determined, whether it's Erik Karlsson or Chris Letang. And can the 5, can Crosby, Malkin, Karlsson, can those 3, can they execute a more rigid power play? Or are they going to default to this freelancing stuff that they have done for 20 years? These are all things that I can't answer right now until I see them against good competition. Tristan Braz looked excellent in the Prospects Challenge, seemed fine in the one preseason game. I would agree. Do I see a chance of a debut this year for the Pittsburgh Penguins, or I think I'll spend the full year in Wilkes? Let's see who sticks around. Let's see who gets claimed or doesn't get claimed on waivers. I don't think Bros will be part of the top 15 forwards. But if there's some injuries and they need a center, yes, I would bring up Bros, mid-season or something, if they need a center. Otherwise, he probably, look, if they send McGroarty to the AHL, Bros will definitely be behind McGroarty in terms of, an average body. If they're going to bring up somebody just to plug in on the third or fourth line, you would think McGroarty would get the nod ahead of Bros. But he could. I like Tristan Bros very much as well. How do I feel about the new Fanatics jerseys compared to Adidas? Michael, I'm going to say this once. I don't care. Also, how does Jari look? It's practice. I will tell you how Jari looks when I actually get to see Jari in some game action. Listen, do you guys know my stance on jerseys? I own zero jerseys. Somewhere in my closet is an old Dakota junior hockey jersey that was gifted to me through a radio station. Actually, it wasn't really gifted. My station bought this dumpy little station, and the owner of this dumpy radio station with holes in the roof, no kidding, water leaking on the equipment. I think I was all of 22, 23. The owner of the radio station that we bought owned a junior hockey team. And I've never actually been able to find the team who, that's the only jersey I own. I still have it 25 years later. Although I might have, it's in a bin somewhere because it was itchy as all heck because it had like the pink insulation falling on it, and I never quite was able to get it entirely clean. That is the only jersey I have. The only team apparel that I have is a Boston Red Sox shirt that I bought a few years ago before FSG bought the Penguins. And I bought it because I was in Boston. Do I have anything else? No. I don't wear sports memorabilia. I don't wear sports T-shirts, and you guys have at it. I'm going to have a collar on. That's just how I do. If the Penguins are out of it by Thanksgiving, can I see big names being traded? Define big names. We talking Brian Rust, Ricard Raquel, Erik Karlsson? Yes. Sidney Crosby, Chris Letang, Evgeny Malkin? No. Is Joel Blomqvist and Sergei Miroshov the tandem in Wilkes-Barre? I think so. If so, Taylor Gauthier was ECHL Goalie of the Year last year, and Philip Larson was signed too. How does that shake out? Ethan, have you been on any of the chats in the last few weeks? We've spent like half an hour on this, but I'll go through it again. Taylor Gauthier's injury in the Prospects Challenge certainly isn't advantageous. He hasn't participated in training camp yet. Has not. So he's way behind. I do. Larson was pretty good when they brought him in against the Buffalo Sabres last Saturday. The Buffalo Sabres NHL players, Larson was pretty good. I could foresee a situation in which Blomqvist and Larson are in the AHL. Miroshov goes to Wheeling so that he plays every night. I could foresee that. I haven't had a chance to see Miroshov against NHL competition at all yet. Yeah, he was a little shaky in some camp scrimmaging, but that's, certainly not as shaky as Blomqvist was against the NHL competition of the Buffalo Sabres. See here. Yeah, I think BJ. No, Dubas will not sell everything, including his soul, or up to his soul, if they're out of it. Crosby, Malkin, Letang, ride or die, they are here. They've made that clear. I think the team has, I think it's so clear that there's no point in discussing it on their part, or the team's part. Letang quickly shot down any trade rumors first day of training camp. It's like, those rumors were out there. They didn't talk to me. I would be hard pressed to see those three. And more specifically, but more importantly, the Penguins missed the playoffs in the last 2 years, not because of the performance of those big three. It's been everybody else that, has allowed them to come up short. Oh, Michael, here, let me explain, Michael. Michael noted that I mentioned Brian Rust as a big name who could be traded if the Penguins are out of it. He does have a no movement clause, but I'm getting the hiccups here. I can tell I get the hiccups at the hour mark. But Brian Rust, his no movement clause expires July 1st, 2025. So, yes, he could block a trade until July. But if Dubas says to him, okay, we're going to miss the playoffs again. These 3 or 4 teams have an interest. Do you want to go to any of those teams? If you include the player in that situation, it becomes a lot easier. He goes home, he talks to his wife. Their kids are young. I don't think Brian Rust has a school-age child where that would be an issue. And so the wife can kind of, help pack up, and they can go to X or Y city as a family unit. That would make it, that makes things a lot easier for players. And I'm not saying they should or will trade Brian Rust. Not saying that. So all of you blogging, all AI writers who like to twist my words and then make memes and make money on Facebook saying I said something, not saying that. I am saying if it does come to trading big names because the Penguins are out of it, again, Brian Rust would be on the list. Other than DOC, if they are out of it at the trade deadline, sell off all pending UFAs. Yeah, I think that's fair. Do they have anybody at left defense? I suppose some of that would depend on Owen Pickering. If you would trade Matt Grzelcyk at the deadline, if you're 8 points out or something like that. I also think, I'll tell you what, straight up, I have a pretty good feeling about Matt Grzelcyk fitting with the Penguins. I like where he's at headspace-wise. I mean, just on the ice, you see him playing confidently. You see what he can do. I will forever believe that, well, actually, I was told this as well. Some prior coaches really kind of messed up P.O. Joseph. No, don't, kind of taking away his strengths. And so he got it ingrained in him that some of the things he did incredibly well were not good for the team. It greatly affected his development. Playing for a guy like Mike Sullivan isn't easy either. Sullivan doesn't like weakness, and P.O. had a bit of weakness. The lack of confidence sometimes. The injury last November in Carolina. Remember that? When Sullivan just, he tossed P.O. under the bus then and said, yeah, the player said he couldn't go. Wow, that was certainly a different wording than Sullivan had ever used before. And it wasn't such a veiled inference that P.O. Joseph pulled himself out of the lineup, that Sullivan, the way he said it was kind of like, yeah, the player could have played, but he pulled himself out. So all of that baked into the P.O. Joseph casserole. Grzelcyk is going to be a step above all of that from day one. He's got pretty good skills with the puck. He knows how to defend. I mean, Grzelcyk played with Charlie McAvoy in Boston, so he's not inexperienced playing with somebody who can just take off with the puck and forget about a few of the responsibilities. I think Grzelcyk is going to be... I think Grzelcyk could be a Penguin for quite a while. Let's see here. Brian's back. We went from the team has a good bottom six finally, and they could make the playoffs, to we need to trade off everyone really quickly. Yeah, let's go back to the bottom six. I'd like to talk a bit about that bottom six. Cody Glass is going to be, I think a central figure in this conversation. He's better than I thought. I don't know if he's as good as he needs to be. If that makes any sense to you. He's better than I thought, but I'm not sure he's as good as he needs to be. I kind of like the guy. I might make, if he sticks around on the NHL roster, I might make him my go-to guy. Hey, what's going on here? What's going on there? I might make him, make him tell me stuff. Of course, if I do that, it's guaranteed he will be traded by March. My guys don't usually last very long. I'm thinking of Branson and Zach Aston Reese and P.O. Joseph. In and out they go. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's all my fault. But they do. I think that bottom six, I think the fourth line especially, I love me some grinders. And watching Lizotte with Achari, and if you put O'Connor there, if you put Beauvillier there, if you put McGroarty there, it's a really interesting line. Achari and Lizotte get on the forecheck with the best of them, and I think so many fans, so many people assume that when you get a couple goal lead, or even a 1-goal lead in the third period, you're supposed to drop back and trap. That's dead, buried, gone. You'd be hard pressed to find any hockey coach who would tell you that's a good idea anymore. I was having actually, I literally was having a Pepsi with a hockey coach yesterday before the game. Yeah, I was high rolling it. He's having a cocktail. I'm sitting there with a Pepsi because it's before the game. And we were talking about this very topic, about how the game has evolved in the last 5 and 10 years, but nobody has educated fans and media for that matter on the evolutions of the game. We're left to kind of pick it up and figure it out after it's all happened and after they're on to the second step. But that defensive shell that teams would go in to protect a lead doesn't work anymore. And so when you've got a fourth line, there is a point to this, trust me. So when you've got a fourth line like Achari, Lizotte, and Beauvillier, or O'Connor, or McGroarty, or Puljujarvi, or whoever the hell they put on that line, it can be an attack line. By the way, like and subscribe. It can be an attack line that gets the puck into the offensive zone, pins the other team, hammers the other team's defenseman. So with 3 minutes to go, or even 2 minutes to go, when Sidney Crosby's line hops on the ice, they do so in an advantageous position, more able to press, more able to get the puck in an empty net, making the other team skate 200 feet, perhaps making a mistake. All of those things that benefit you, that fourth line can do. The way I see the third line shaping out still kind of remains suspect to me. If you have Hayes and Glass and McGroarty, or Hayes and Glass and Beauvillier, or Hayes and Puljujarvi, are they going to be good enough to rely on them with a 1 or 2 goal lead in the third period? I think Hayes on that third line makes it an offensive line. And where Lars Eller fits in all of this, I still don't know. Honest to goodness, I don't know. Maybe the fourth line is Lizotte, Eller, Achari. That would be a pretty spectacular fourth line, wouldn't it? Sullivan does have a lot of decisions, tons of decisions to make. Let's see here. So I'm going to take one more. This is the final one. I see another paragraph from Gary. who's on Facebook. But these do broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. I'm not putting them on Twitter because, well, I don't get really paid for Twitter videos. On a slightly different note, Gary says, did I happen to see Torts brought in Guy Gaudreau? Yes, I did. In fact, we put that in Dan's Daily on Tuesday. As much as I don't like Torts whenever he coaches versus the Penguins, I can't help but really like the guy for a classy move like this. Way to go, Torts. More evidence. I think the hockey community is by far the best in all of sports. Gary, I will tell you a little bit of a long-winded story here. I'm gonna dial the clock back about 6 or 7 years when I was first starting Pittsburgh Hockey Now, and there was a wild blog in the marketplace, and their entire thing was just to dump on everybody until I came along, and I wasn't having any of that. And I would push back, and I would fight back. One of the things that the Penguins fans at that time, we're talking 2016, 17, 18, because there was a real sanctimony from corners of the fan base then, in part because of, some of the blogosphere. And I was telling people what a great coach John Tortorella was. And this was kind of at the end of the Mike Johnston era. So we're kind of into 15, 16. I'm talking about how great John Tortorella is. And I'm just getting vilified on social media, and I'm getting hammered. I know nothing about hockey, and hockey's all about scoring goals and skating. And, no matter what I said, people were taking the opposite opinion. And I got to know John Tortorella a little bit 20 years ago when I was with the Johnstown Chiefs, because he was coaching Tampa Bay, and the Tampa Bay Lightning owned the Chiefs. So I had just some cursory dealings with the guy. An amazing class act. He doesn't have to talk to me, right? But he can't. At that time, I was doing the Fourth Period radio show. I started that. It's still on Sirius XM with other hosts and, the crew at thefourthperiod.com. But I was the originator of that. And Torts came on my show. He didn't have to, kind of do those niceties and those little favors. So we're talking about the Stanley Cup final and, what it's like to win the Stanley Cup and so forth. And as we're wrapping up the interview, he stops me because he knew we were on AM 960 in Calgary, my very first terrestrial affiliate. Picked us up in 2002. Anywho, Torts stops the show to talk directly to the Calgary fans and say how classy he thought they were, how much he and the team appreciated how they treated them, how hard fought of a series it was, and how much admiration and respect they earned from the Tampa Bay people. And just, that's John Tortorella. He's a great guy. When he was, the 1 year he was coaching Vancouver, which obviously did not go well, he and Mike Sullivan got kind of run out of there pretty quickly. I've heard some stories. I don't know how true. I mean, they tried to remake the organization and they picked the wrong straw man. This kind of variations of the story I heard. Anyway, Torts bought a giant farm. I think it was actually on the U.S. side in Washington. Made a 45-minute commute to Vancouver every day. Giant farm just for his dogs. So his dogs could run around and have a blast and have a farm life. That was John Tortorella. Okay, I'm done. That's an hour, 14 minutes. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, check out Pittsburgh Hockey Now. I'm done. Have fun. Bye.